Hello and good morning, Internet. Hello and good morning, world. Hello, lamppost. What you knowin'? Come to watch your news distribution flowin'. We are streaming on Rumble. Fantastic. Streaming on Facebook. Friggin' fantastic. Let me share this to the three groups here, and we will launch the show. TNAM's the Agree to Disagree Show group. TNAM Fake News, Debunking Conspiracy Theories and Propaganda, and TNAM Preparedness. Join our daily live show and leave your comments to participate in the shenanigans. Bam. Hey, Farva, what's that place? What's that sports bar with all that crazy crap up on the walls? You mean shenanigans? Oh. All right, I think we are up and moving. Let's jump into... let's do a test from D Live. That is one of our new sites, but it's not working. It keeps saying streamer is offline. Check in later. Don't understand it, but we're on a bunch of places. Yep, there's our test D Live. Perfect. We're ready to rock and roll. Let's jump into the program today. Let's go ahead and go to our design. Actually, oh no, our folder. Got to go to A2D4 for the New American Media, the TNAM AM Show. Perfect. Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere in between two formerly tariff nations. My name is Brian Engelman. Today is Friday, April 11th, 2025, and this is the TNAM AM Show here on the New American Media, because the old American media has failed you, and you're a savvy consumer, and you've known it for a while. You've known that they are intentionally misreporting stories. And anyone with intellectual curiosity would have been able to figure this stuff out a long time ago. And so you figure out all you're getting from these news people, you're getting Hollywood actors and actresses. That's what you're getting. You're getting a version of what they want you to think is true. Doesn't make it so. That's why you found us, the New American Media. So follow the New American Media at the places scrolling at the bottom here. Search the New American Media on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, YouTube. We're on Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_media_, and our podcast is the Agree to Disagree Show on Spotify and Apple. So the Agree to Disagree Show is the umbrella that will include the TNAM AM Show. So link up with us all in those places. And for anybody who supports independent journalism, thank you so much. We do rely 100% on you. We don't have advertisers, although I should, but I really do enjoy not having to do ad breaks, ad reads. But on the flip side, I could easily do ad reads. But the point being, everybody who signed up with the New American Media on Patreon, thank you very much. We are thinking about including some additional content, maybe for subscribers only. We have a few ideas. We'll let you know, keep you posted there. And also we do take donations if you want to buy us a cup of coffee or, throw a penny into the wishing well to pay off the thousands and tens of thousands that we've spent over the last 14 years on equipment and travel and infrastructure and the exchange of time, really. It's the exchange of time. So a lot of you who don't exchange your time doing this and you want to put your head down and work and provide for your family and be fiscally responsible, that's awesome. You're doing that and crushing it. And so you have some financial resources to contribute to people who are devoting all of the time that they could be doing all of those things to deciphering through the news cycle and trying to figure out what's more likely to be accurate, trying to find the stories that are relevant. So we appreciate all of your donations. We're on Venmo at Brian Engelman, Cash App, $Brian Engelman, and PayPal at Fuzz Installment. So let's take a look today at the news with David Band. David checking in. Hello, sir. We got David every day until he goes to check out, goes to pick up his kids. We appreciate having David in the chat room, offering his comments and such. Please leave your comments. However you're watching, hit like, hit subscribe. If you're on Facebook, hit the thumbs up or the hearts button. I really do encourage everyone, once again, to follow us on Rumble. Rumble is the place that you're going to want to link up with us. We are monetized there, and that makes a big difference. YouTube took that away for no apparent reason. YouTube is a terrible company. But this here is our Rumble page, and it shows that we're going live, so you can just kind of get the alerts and see that we're live. And yeah, this Rumble page is populated. I don't know. I mean, honestly, sometimes I get many more views on Rumble than we do on YouTube. We've had YouTube for 14 years, 3,600 subscribers, 1,800 videos. And we've just kind of recently started on Rumble, but we'll get better views there because they don't hide our content. But that is the battle we're fighting. I discussed that at length yesterday. We'll spare any more of that chatter for another day. At the moment now, what I'd like to do is jump into our Instagram feed and see what stories are worth talking about today. Of course, we are going to discuss Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, talking about the vulnerabilities of voter machines. The vulnerabilities of voter machines. We're going to talk about illegal aliens being deported, what's happening on that topic. There really was a concerted effort to flood America with 30 million non-Americans. And then it looks like they were creating fake Social Security numbers to give non-citizens Social Security numbers, and then getting those Social Security numbers used to register people to vote, and then collecting ballots, creating ballots, delivering and counting ballots to flip fraud states or swing states. There's a lot of accusations out there, and we've been really, you say it forcefully, and then you start yelling, then you start screaming, and you're like, hello, what is going on here? We all see the problem. Why is nobody fixing it? Well, we're going to talk about it because Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, is saying there are so many vulnerabilities to these voter machines. We have to reconsider why we even use them in the first place. Shouldn't we just do paper ballots same day with a voter ID? And voter ID is passed now. Oh, no, it might be slightly more inconvenient. Yeah, everything's slightly inconvenient. You get something in the mail you got to make another payment to get a registration tag for your vehicle again. That's a hassle. Oh, you got to sign a document. You have to get something notarized, show your identification. Yeah, things happen. If you are not a shareholder, you don't get a vote. And what the Democrat deep state has been doing, they've been trying to transform America into something that it is not. Hello, Kenneth. Yes, everybody out there, hit like, hit subscribe, however you're watching. Thumbs up and the hearts on Facebook. And send us a rant on Rumble. The rant sticks for 2 minutes. I'm kind of new to the rant topic. But let's get your rants. All right. We're going to buzz through these stories and then get to the hard news. Here's Bill Maher talking about liberals, talking about the deep state, talking about this. This is an older clip from a few years ago, but it's relevant today with all of the forced migration. We're going to call it the Obama doctrine. It's colonization. It's what all these Marxist, Leninist professors have been railing about, but it's what the Obama doctrine has been pushing on America to change the demographic, the voting blocks of this country. And it's been done all across the globe to change the voting blocks and the dominance of France, of Italy, of Sweden, go through all of Europe. It is a mess right now. there's this belief, or at least this cover story, that all cultures are the same, all religions are the same, all people are the same, all continents are the same, all countries are the same, everything's the same, all sexes are the same, all races are the same, everything's homogenous. There are no differences in anything. A dog is a cat, is a pony, is a hummingbird, is a dire wolf. All these things are the same. Everything's the same. Well, it ain't. And so we're going to talk about what's going on with the immigration, the self-deportation, and the new laws that are coming in. Kristi Noem, more wall being built. And, if you self-deport, what options are there for you? And if you're not going to raise your hand and identify as someone who's here not legally, well, you might be permanently banned from being here forever. There has to be repercussions for what the Democrat deep state has been doing. And once again, sincerest apologies to the people of Ukraine and Vladimir Zelensky for trusting Victoria Nuland, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and the deep state. My apologies on behalf of the deep state Democrats to any illegal alien that was told you could come here. You can't. You can by going through the process. You go through the front door. You don't sneak in. They've been running games, coaching everybody to say, oh, just say it's asylum. Yeah, we're not doing that. This is nonsense. We're not going to have our country turned inside out. We're not going to. This is an invitation. You learn the language. You walk through the front door. You raise your hand. You do a full medical and criminal background check. You go through a process. And maybe you get some temporary work abilities, and you pay taxes, and you don't mooch off the system and get benefits either. If there's a strategy in place to get people into this country legally, then that's a system maybe we could get behind. But whatever the deep state Democrats have been doing, sorry that they've been lying to you. Sorry that they've been using you. Sorry that they've manipulated you. Sorry that they see you as a permanent voting block. If they could get you addicted to free money, you'll never vote against them again. We know what they're up to. We've always known what they were up to. And let's face it, if you're sneaking in with the deep state Democrats and the coyotes and all the illegal border crossing, criminal activity, human smuggling, all the criminal activity happening, you know what you're a part of. So we're recalibrating that. And it's going to actually mean something. You might have to prove that you really want to be an American. Not just come here and bring all of your customs, all your traditions, your languages, all. You want to create a little enclave of mini Italy. I guess little Italy. Mini Bangladesh. Little enclaves of Afghanistan. Afghanis? Afghanistanis? Enclaves of Russians, enclaves of Canadians, enclaves of Mexicans. America's about assimilation, sharing a language, learning our customs, devoting yourself to defending our Second Amendment right to self-defense, devoting yourself to freedom of speech, even speech that you don't prefer, you don't like it, it's mean. If you're going to bring the right customs and make the right commitments to join Team America, well, then you can become an American, but we're done with this invasion stuff. Repercussions, that's when the pawn shop takes back to your drum set. I might be able to turn that into a joke. The problem is I don't remember my jokes and trying to keep 60 minutes of jokes in my mind. So I'm trying to work on 4 or 5 minutes at a time. Are you a notary, Kenneth? Are you really? All right. Let's get to Bill Maher here. I'm going to go through these stories that we have on the Instagram channel. Once again, follow the New American Media on Instagram. But this is Bill Maher from a couple of years ago, I believe, talking about the differences between cultures, religions, peoples, ideologies, and how that all shakes out. And by the way, Bill Maher, a famous atheist, I believe I'm characterizing him accurately, not trying to put words in his mouth, but I believe that's what it is.
Suing me for pointing out that Islam is not like other religions. There are illiberal beliefs. that are held by vast numbers of Muslim people that I don't think
vast number of Christians too.
No, that's not true. Not true. Vast numbers of Christians do not believe that if you leave the Christian religion, you should be killed for it.
But you heard that instant snapback, I got to attack Christianity. And Bill's like, hold on. Where are there vast numbers of Christians that don't treat women as second-class citizens? What about abortion? Yeah, that's about killing a human being that was co-created by the mother. There are ideological differences on how great it is that a society should allow you to kill human life. But where are the vast numbers of Christians that are treating women as second-class citizens? Abortion. Take the abortion argument out of this for a second. The states' rights issue, that's an abortion conversation. I mean, are you saying Christians force you to cover up and walk around in a ghost costume all day?
Vast numbers of Christians do not treat women as second-class citizens. Vast numbers of Christians
I agree with that.
Do not believe that if you draw a picture of Jesus Christ, you should get killed for it.
Do you remember that one? Where are there vast numbers of Christians that say if you draw a picture of Jesus Christ, you should get killed for it? No. But there is with Islam. There are distinctions and differences.
There's a Pew poll of Egypt done a few years ago. 82%, I think it was, said stoning is the appropriate punishment for adultery.
So, do other societies, 82%, totally cool with stoning somebody to death for adultery? Or do you say, hey, you're going to have to answer for your personal deeds when you move on to the next experience and meet your maker?
Over 80% thought death was the appropriate punishment for leaving the Muslim religion.
Who else is saying you should be executed for leaving the religion? Bill Maher will probably call all religions a cult, but that is cult-like behavior. If you can't leave without being killed, if everything is a threat of physical harm, you got to consider, why would you want to change your community all across England, all across Europe? Why would you want to change your community by bringing in people with different values than you? To what benefit is that to you and your country? You have the right to defend your country from an invasion. It's a takeover. If you allow people from other places to come in and not assimilate to your customs, then that's an invasion. That's colonization. And Bill Maher from a couple years ago, I believe, I don't know when this video is from, but there's a difference.
I'm sure you know these things.
I know. Well, I do.
But I don't. That this religion is like other religions is just naive and plain wrong. It is not like other religions. The New York Times pointed out in an op-ed a couple of weeks ago that in Saudi Arabia, just since August 4th, I think it was, they have beheaded 19 people. Most for non-violent crimes, including homosexuality.
Those didn't got the hands off the thief.
Right. Okay. So we're upset that ISIS is beheading people, which we should be upset about. But Saudi Arabia does it, and they're our good friends because they have oil.
Right.
Okay? But they do it too.
Our good friends, Saudi Arabia, who many say were the ones behind the 9/11 attacks. Can we get the 9/11 files now and find out what that was really about?
This is the center of the religion. In Mecca, where infidels, non-Muslims, are not even allowed in the holy parts of the city. I mean, okay, they do behead people. Now, if they were beheading people in Vatican City, which is the equivalent of Mecca, don't you think there'd be a bigger outcry about it? So this is the soft bigotry of low expectations that we have with Muslim people.
Yeah.
When they do crazy things and believe crazy things, somehow it's just not talked about nearly as much. But as Ayaan Hirsi Ali points out, she says, can we really say, well, and she would know better than either one of us. She said, can we really say that women are treated equally in the Muslim world? I mean, their testimony in court is very often counted as half. They need permission to leave the house in some places. But in this country, if you just use the wrong word about women, they go nuts. And in all these other countries, they're doing things like stop booing me.
Yeah, like making them wear burqas, walk around in a... I mean, imagine that. You saw that leader... Who was that? Was it Le Pen? And she went to go meet with a leader, And they wanted her to cover her face. And she's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Send him my kindest regards. I'm out. I don't do that. I'm not going to wear your hat. I'm not going to kiss your wall. I'm not going to cover my face. What, like it's Halloween and I'm a ghost? No, I'm not doing that. Well, that's their custom. Well, then they can meet with themselves. Because that's just something I'm not participating in. Yes, and you're right, David. He might be in a cult himself, Bill Maher, for sure. But as we talk about immigration, it's just what culture are you importing? And what values do these people bring? Are they assimilating or trying to do an epic project in Texas, hundreds of acres, to turn it into an Islamic enclave? A little city within a city. How does that benefit Texas and America? Sharia and the American Constitution, they're incompatible documents. They're incompatible ideologies. We have to be more on top of the calls for assimilation with immigration. Here's Anna Paulina Luna talking about the FDA raiding dairy farms, but then they're allowing other stuff.
Mr. Safdar, would you also agree that the FDA can send armed agents into Amish dairy farms, but they are not keeping toxic Chinese-made face washes out of our stores?
Toxic face washes are being sold from China and we're allowing it. But they're devoting their resources to sending armed guards to Amish dairy farms. Why are the American priorities under the deep state Democrat Party of the Obama doctrine, because that's what ran the 4 Biden terms, or the 4 years of Biden's term. The priorities have been completely upside down. They say, oh, the greatest threat to America is white supremacy. The greatest threat to America is white nationalists. The greatest threat to America are militias. The greatest threat to America. Okay, you mean the people who are calling out your treason? I mean, I guess in that regard, yeah, but otherwise your statement makes no sense. And you're prioritizing all the wrong things, all in an effort to try to turn January 6th into something it wasn't. You tried, you failed. Goodbye.
Congresswoman, thank you for the question. I neither work on anything related to food products or face washes. So
Got it. Does anyone on the panel have an answer to that? No. Okay. For context, here's an article that I'd like to enter into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. That objection's ordered.
The FDA was raiding Amish farms over raw milk, which, to be honest with you, is pretty absurd, given that the FDA has dropped the ball on many other things that are actually causing cancer. Mr. Safdar, would you also agree?
There you go. You know what? I will leave one.
Mr.
Time to invert the upside down priorities of the Biden debacle. All right. The Environmental Protection Agency has canceled $22 billion worth of grants. Let's stop wasting money. I love that. I want to hear stories about this every single day.
It was strangulating the economy. The Trump EPA understands it's not a binary choice. We can protect the environment and grow the economy. Working with Doge and Elon Musk, we've now canceled $22 billion worth of grants. And we have launched what is the largest deregulatory action in the history of the country. Just in one agency. That's how much of a mess the Biden EPA left us. It is going to end up reducing the cost of living. It's going to create jobs. It's going to make it easier to purchase a car. It will be easier to heat your home. We're proud of this effort. The effort that we have is fulfilling the mandate that you earned from the American public. Clean air, land, and water for all Americans, unleashing energy dominance, permitting reform, advancing cooperative federalism, making America the AI capital of the world, and bringing back American auto jobs. When you called me that day asking for me to take this position, I was honored. And you were very specific and clear in what you wanted us to accomplish. We understand our mission, and at the Trump EPA, we're going to make you proud.
Great job. You're doing a great job, and you have a lot.
EPA was.
That's pretty great. No more EPA strangling our economy. All right, check this out. Hillary Clinton says, update. The House just passed the Republican voter suppression measure that threatens voting access for millions of Americans, including 69 million women whose married names don't match their birth certificates. Make sure your senators know you expect them to stand against it. DC Jano says Hillary is trying to say that married women now can't vote because Republicans passed an election integrity bill. This is disinformation. Does anyone actually believe this crap? Yeah, if you get married and change your name, you change your documents, you figure it out. And if you have to provide an evidence that you are an actual citizen, I'd like to find a way to, I don't know what the process is going to look like. How do we prove it? We enter our social security numbers, and does Social Security know if you're a resident? Shouldn't only citizens get Social Security cards? Social Security numbers. I'm looking it up, and I guess there's some work permits where you can get a temporary, or you get a Social Security card, but that doesn't prove that you're a citizen. Well, that doesn't work for me. The system needs to be there's one Social Security card, and that means that you're a citizen entitled to vote. If you need to get a document that will allow you to pay taxes and work in the country legally, don't call that a Social Security number. Because if some people with the SSN can vote and some people can't, that is a confusing backward system. That needs to be clarified, streamlined. But yeah, any married woman who had to change their name and get a new driver's license and go through that process, new credit cards, nobody likes it. Actually, you want to be popular? Make it so you can do like a one-stop shop that'll send a message to all your credit cards, to all of your blah, 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 and just click a button and change your name and get some new documents. Nobody I know who's changed their name has loved the process because it's a bit of a hassle, right? But this is about securing the votes of American citizens. That's what this is about. Babylon B says Democrats are worried Trump may not have China's best interests at heart. Leave it to the Babylon B to give you a satirical slam dunk. Democrats worried Trump may not have China's best interests at heart. Here is Tucker Carlson talking about, just how dangerous a game Biden, Victoria Nuland, Obama, Kerry, Clinton, just how dangerous a game the U.S. is playing in Ukraine. Actively fighting Russia through the Ukrainian proxy.
Just came out the other day, the Pentagon wrote an assessment saying that they calculated that if we gave weapons to Ukraine that allowed the Ukrainian military or our military using Ukraine as a proxy to hit targets within Russia, they judged the likelihood of a nuclear exchange at 50%. Mm-hmm. And they did it anyway. At that point, you should be in prison for the criminally insane. The Pentagon under Joe Biden assessed, because they assess the likelihood of everything, or they guess, they sort of work out how.
Something here is Amish. It's Amish. It's Amish. Yeah, they calculate it. It's kind of like an insurance adjuster, like an actuary. You're just running the calculations. What's the likelihood if we do this, we'll get that?
They think things will progress, but in every scenario globally, they do this. This is what they do at the Pentagon. And they assess that if we gave certain weapons that allowed the Ukrainians to strike targets within Russia, if we did that, which we did, the chance of a nuclear exchange, a nuclear holocaust that killed everybody on Earth would be 50%.
50% likelihood of nuclear apocalypse. And they did it anyway. God, are we lucky that these people are out of power. And we got to keep them out of power. We need to retire as many of them as possible. We need to stop the funding and permanently transform this country back into something it was supposed to be. And I think part of it's going to be releasing Crossfire Hurricane documents, getting to kind of where the core of this modern day rot came from. And it was Barack Obama overstepping bounds, acting like a tyrant, violating civil liberties, committing treason on a massive scale.
Big breaking news. You're going to get it here first because you're Real America's Voice fans and you watch Just the News. Earlier today, the FBI under Kash Patel turned over to Congress 700 pages of Crossfire Hurricane documents, unredacted and declassified. These are the documents President Trump intended to be released in January 2021, but the FBI scooped them up, kept them from going to public release. We sued, tried to fight for them. Donald Trump came back into office, and he released them a second time. And today they got to Congress, and then they ended up in the hands of Just the News. And in just an hour, you're going to see our first story. I'm going to give you a timetable, 7 p.m. Our first story is going to come out on justthenews.com. At 8 p.m., we're going to give all the documents one by one and post them onto the website, so you have a sort of Wikimedia wiki to go look through the documents yourself. If you find some good stories, let us know at Just the News, and we'll go pursue them. We're going to tell you about one right now, perhaps the most important thing in the documents that we found early on. One of the two informants that were used by the FBI to spy or to snitch on Donald Trump and his campaign was named Stephen Halper. He's not the most famous. Christopher Steele, the guy that wrote the dossier, he's the most famous. But
the Steele dossier.
Stephen Halper was used quite a bit by the FBI. In fact, he was used for 3 decades by the FBI, and it turns out snitching is a pretty lucrative profession. He got paid nearly $1.2 million by the FBI to be a confidential human source from the early 1990s to 2017. The last of those payments, $70,000 for his work snitching on the Trump campaign and the Crossfire Hurricane early investigation. Now, why? What are we going to tell you about it? It turns out that he got that money and he kept being used by the FBI and he kept being validated as reliable, even though the FBI detected he had given them an inaccurate, false, or disprovable story. What is it? He's the guy that told the FBI that Mike Flynn, soon to be Donald Trump's national security advisor in the fall of 2016, back in 2014, had left a conference, an overseas conference, while he was a 3-star general and the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, alone with a Russian woman. Now, the FBI determined that was implausible and inaccurate. In fact, President Mike Flynn's own security detail would never have left him alone. He was a 3-star general and the head of the intelligence agency. He was always guarded by people. They determined it was unreliable, not true, inaccurate, not plausible. But guess what? They kept using him to keep digging further and further into people like George Papadopoulos and Carter Page and others. We're going to get all this up for you to read. We want your own eyes on it. You look at it, you see it at justthenews.com, 7 p.m.
So take a look at Crossfire Hurricane. I mean, this is sort of, you want the smoking gun of how you bring down Biden and the deep state. I mean, look at what they did to commit treason. Look at what they did to violate our civil rights. What they did. All in an effort to keep Trump out because they knew their playbook wasn't going to work anymore if they didn't have a fake Republican on the other side going along with it. They would be fine with a Romney or a McCain or a Cheney or a Bush, but not somebody with their own ideas and their own allegiances to this country instead of some corporations. Kevin P. Kiley here reporting. California is now facing... Let me switch the screen. Yes, just like they did with the JFK, how many different organizations or people could be blamed for the offing. Yeah, muddying the waters. California is now facing at least 10 federal investigations for civil rights violations and other unlawful activity. Years of utter lawlessness have caught up with Gavin Newsom. 1, he's been allowing men to compete in women's sports. 2, he's been forcing schools to lie to parents about a child's gender identity. 3, he's been engaging in racial discrimination in university admissions. 4, Gavin Newsom's been engaging in anti-Semitism on college campuses. 5, allowing pro-terrorist individuals to take over campuses. 6, wasting billions on high-speed rail. 7, or stealing from high-speed rail. 7, wasting billions in homelessness funding. I am so angry about that. 8, increasing gas prices with unlawful cap and trade. 9, restricting Second Amendment rights with CCW barriers. I can't tell you how frustrating it was living in Los Angeles with those barriers. 10, interfering with immigration enforcement as a sanctuary state. So Gavin Newsom facing at least 10 federal investigations for civil rights violations and unlawful activity.
Ladies.
All right, so we're talking about immigration here. People are self-deporting, and let's get an update here. Informed with Anthony.
Gentlemen, we have a little bit of breaking news here. A federal judge has ruled that every illegal immigrant in the United States must register with the federal government. The Department of Homeland Security announced in February, if you guys remember that all illegal migrants will be required to register with the government and that those who do not could face fines or prosecution. Judge Trevor Neal McFadden agreed that all illegal immigrants over the age of 13 need to register. This is according to the Associated Press.
All right, let me ask you this question. I'm going to ask you a very specific question. Do you agree or disagree? Do you agree or disagree that all illegal aliens should register with the federal government immediately?
Essentially, any migrant over the age of 14 will need to provide fingerprints and their addresses. The registration process will also include people in the country illegally for more than 30 days, such as Canadians who come south for the winter. So obviously, this is going to impact essentially every single migrant that is in the country here illegally. There's a lot of people worried and concerned about what does this mean for me? What does this mean if I'm getting my paperwork fixed, but I'm still technically here illegally? My suggestion would just be reach out to your immigration lawyer and say, hey, this just got ruled. Maybe it can get kicked up to SCOTUS, by the way, that's kind of what everything is leading up to. Everything always gets kicked up to SCOTUS and then they decide. But we can definitely say that this is going to impact all illegal aliens in the U.S., which is estimated to be somewhere in the tens of millions. Let me know what you guys think about this.
I like it. You know, when I go in another country, I always get stopped. They ask me for stuff. I show them my stuff. I'm not doing anything wrong. They know where I'm at. All right, cool. See you later. Just not really all that much to it. This is a former Democrat talking about what happened to that Democrat Party that has a 21% approval rating. Or you could say a 79% disapproval rating, if you like.
Former Democrat, I voted for Hillary Clinton. I was all about women empowerment and what she stood for. And all of a sudden, I cannot recognize what this party has become. Latinos voted in this election with their wallets. We didn't vote for pronouns. We voted for our paychecks. We voted for safety. We voted with our Catholic values. And the Democrat Party does not represent that. So it's become something we don't recognize, we don't identify with, and they've really lost us. Like Kennedy says, the party left us.
Yeah.
I'm a former Democrat.
The party left. People bounced. People don't want to be a part of what the Democrats are selling. The party left the people. 21% approval rating. So here's a battle that's happening. If you're not aware, I want you to be aware of this. Donald Trump says Mexico owes Texas 1.3 million acre feet of water under the 1944 Water Treaty, but Mexico is unfortunately violating their treaty obligation. This is very unfair, and it's hurting South Texas farmers very badly. Last year, the only sugar mill in Texas closed because Mexico has been stealing the water from Texas farmers. Ted Cruz has been leading the fight to get South Texas the water it's owed, but Sleepy Joe refused to lift a finger to help the farmers. That ends now. I will make sure Mexico doesn't violate our treaties and doesn't hurt our Texas farmers. I just love that it feels like we have a president that's fighting for us. He's getting a lot of wins. Not perfect. I haven't seen perfect. This is the best administration I've ever seen. Hands down, easily. Keep in mind, he's trying to negotiate an end to 2 ongoing wars. Trying to. And fighting to improve Texas. But he says that ends now. We're going to help the farmers. I will make sure Mexico doesn't violate our treaties and doesn't hurt our Texas farmers. Just last month, I halted water shipments to Tijuana until Mexico complies with the 1944 Water Treaty. My Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, is standing up for Texas farmers and will keep evaluating consequences, including tariffs and maybe even sanctions, until Mexico honors the treaty and gives Texas the water they are owed. Thank you for fighting on behalf of Texans and Americans. President Trump. It's crazy how anti-American the deep state Democrats have become. All right. Good job, President Trump. Here's a huge report. Explosive Department of Defense report raises new questions about the COVID timeline, revealing that 7 U.S. service members showed symptoms after competing at the World Military Games in Wuhan, months before the deadly virus reached the U.S. I'm pretty sure this was being reported in back circles. COVID was going on for months and months and months. Months before it came over and eventually shut the world down in March, I believe. When you think about tariffs and sanctions on China, remember COVID. I certainly do. I remember how my mom died of respiratory failure at the beginning of COVID and how my brother died of respiratory failure at the end of COVID. So, yeah, we can't sanction and hold China accountable enough for the demon they unleashed on the world. Next. Natalie Winters destroying Christopher Steele. The Steele dossier. Christopher Steele should be involved in these treason charges.
Well, I know Christopher Steele probably wanted to go down in history as someone that colluded with the Clinton campaign to take down President Donald J. Trump, but I really think that you represent probably the ultimate grifter in the American political space. For you to even come on here, obviously you're trying to sabotage what President Trump is doing when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, but to sit here, what is it, nearly a decade after you tried to smear President Trump as a Russian asset, to then say, well, I think he's a Russian asset, but even though I'm really good at my job and create all these intelligence reports, it's just sort of a feeling that I have. I'm sorry, what stones do you even have left to turn over to try to corroborate your claim that President Trump is a Russian asset? You what? Weaponized FISA courts, surveillance, warrants, not just domestic spy agencies, international spy agencies too, the entire DNC apparatus, a bunch of political operatives and registered foreign agents here in the United States. The American people would really appreciate it if you would stop injecting your efforts to curtail and totally tank the America First movement by smearing anyone who doesn't want to get involved in forever wars or continue the needless and ceaseless dying of in Ukraine and in Russia, just so you can sit there from your nice perch and just continue to defend the globalist world order by continuing to fan the flames of conflict in Russia and Ukraine. And you know what? The same people that you ally yourself with here in the United States, you think you're so good at gathering intelligence. Last time I checked, it was the 51 intel agency officers, spies, who said that the Hunter Biden hard drive, which I've reported on firsthand, it's legitimate. You want to talk about president's sons who are involved in businesses with foreign countries? Well, I'd like to introduce you to Hunter Biden, right? When those 51 people that I'm sure that you know all too well, you were probably likely involved with the drafting of that letter, said that was Russian disinformation. Well, it turned out that that was true, and shame on you for the last decade trying to inject the idea that smearing President Trump as a Russian agent or a Russian asset is somehow going to tank the MAGA movement. It's about putting America first, and the fact that you can still sit here and you have no actual evidence beside one random Russian meeting and, oh, we need to just continue to get more evidence. You're a complete political hack and grifter, and I wish the American political scene didn't have your voice in it.
All right. Well, Christopher Steele, you're about to leave us because you're only here for this part of the panel. But your response finally to that?
My response is that I'm a professional intelligence officer and an expert on that part of the world. I'm not a politician.
Was the Hunter Biden hard drive Russian disinformation then, if you're such an expert?
Let him finish. Let him finish. So I've been a loyal and close ally of the United States for probably most of the last 40 years. I've worked extremely closely with officials working for administrations, both Republican and Democrat. I have a very strong...
Well, I know Christopher Steele probably wanted to go down in his...
He could have clipped that if he had nothing to say. He had nothing to say. Standing ovation. Standing ovation. Bravo. Natalie Winters, bravo. That Christopher Steele needs to be facing the same treason charges
that
everybody else has to. Obama, Biden, the whole deep state cabal that's been trying to sell this country out and tank us, destroy us from the inside, actively working to sabotage the United States of America. Here is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth talking about the recruitment in our military. Is it called the Trump bump? That's a good question of the day. Let me ask you, do you agree or disagree? Do you agree or disagree that there's a Trump bump in the recruitment in the military? Do you think that makes sense?
You are working out with the troops, Mr. Secretary. I've heard from the guys. I know what this does for morale, and we've seen what it's done now for recruitment. In part, many different factors are going into this, but you guys have seen, we have the numbers I think we can share, what's happened with recruitment in the military since you've taken over as the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Trump bump. It's the Commander-in-Chief, first and foremost. He's got the backs of our warfighters, and they know it. And so the young men and women of America are prepared to stand up. Look at those numbers. They're historic over multiple decades. And I get to see them out, whether it's Panama City, whether it's in Guam or Japan or the Philippines or on bases here in the U.S. or out in Germany and Poland. You look into the eyes of these young Americans who are giving up the best years of their life in a uniform to serve their nation. They are incredible. And those best moments are in the morning. It's still not quite light out. We're out in formation, doing PT. You get to hear the real story. You get to thank them for what they do. You find out where they're from. And they know that I have been in their place not that long ago. And that I want to have, just like the president, their best interest in mind, that we're going to have their back. We're going to let warriors be warriors. We're going to rebuild our military, reestablish deterrence, make sure they're ready to go, everything that they need. It's an awesome responsibility, Will. You and I talked a lot on and off air. We're friends. This is something that's meant a lot to me for a very long time, and it's a sober responsibility to make sure they're prepared. And when you look them in the eyes, you realize what it's all about. We can talk about the Panama Canal, we can talk about the Communist Chinese. None of that happens without the eyes of deterrence that are those men and women that I see on these trips. They're why we do it, and I couldn't be more honored to lead them, and they got the best commander-in-chief they could possibly have.
There you.
Heck yeah. Do you agree or disagree that there's a Trump bump in recruiting? Let's find out about the criminal activities of these Democrats. This is Greg Gutfeld on the 5.
Authentic? No, they are not. No. Did you listen to that? It was like a bat signal went out. They said exactly the same thing. Yep. Just have one original thought.
David agrees with the Trump bump.
And when you get the original thought, don't share it with everybody else. Expect other people to have their own original thought. You are NPCs, non-playing.
Kenneth agrees with the Trump bump. Oh, here we go. The Bella's Chance agrees that every single illegal alien should leave our country. Yeah, how are they not in jail? And it's been hard to hire a workforce. Let me be crystal clear about this. I worked in temporary staffing. I've talked with a lot of people who work in construction. They can't find people to work. If there are people that are going to ask to come here to work and stay out of trouble and fingerprint, give their DNA sample, like they show up, try to learn the language, and that should be part of the CBP1 app or whatever's happening. They don't get a social security number. They get a resident visitor tax ID card or something. Don't ever call it a social security number. No illegal should ever have a social security number. If you need a document or a number to give you some sort of temporary work status, keep that totally separate from social security number and make it so that social security number alone should be enough to make sure that you get to prove who you are on voting day, prosecute anyone trying to steal a vote in our election, because that's the number one thing. You can't steal our whole government. No, we're not going to let you do that. And if you do, you're gone. You're going to jail forever. If you're not serious about it, people are going to keep trying to do it. So, yeah. How are they not in jail? Why is that happening? All right, back to Gutfeld here talking about Democrats. And here, you know what? Actually, let me Let me go back and let me just start it from the beginning.
Are the Democrats authentic? No, they are not. No. Did you listen to that? It was like a bat signal went out. They said exactly the same thing. Yep. Just have one original thought, and when you get the original thought, don't share it with everybody else. Expect other people to have their own original thought. You are NPCs, non-playing characters in a video game, the background that provides context to people who live real lives, who are playing the video game, us. The stock market reacts poorly to uncertainty. The problem with Trump, uncertainty is his superpower, and uncertainty brings people to the table and it scares other people away. But
and that's the point of the negotiation. You shake up the box and see what happens. And the people that run to one side and start vigorously you go, oh, well, you just outed yourself. Okay. Hey, let's do a deep dive into these people. Are they corrupted? Let's look around. But I'm telling you, the stock market, the people putting money into this stuff now, you got the crypto people. And market volatility is par for the course in crypto. Problem is you got all the boomers retiring and they just want to kind of go like this and hold on and hold on and hold on. Well, you boomers rang up $36 trillion credit card debt that nobody can pay off. We're trying to figure that out. So yeah, there's going to be some market volatility, okay? And Wall Street needs to bake some of this in. Scramble it in with the eggs and just go, oh, okay. Well, there might be some turbulence, but turbulence is par for the course because now we're renegotiating all of our deals at once. Everything is a one-stop shop, said Trump. We're going to negotiate our trade deals and we're going to negotiate all of the other stuff. Every country that's benefiting from our military presence, yeah, there's a fee associated with that. You want your own damn military? Pay for your own damn military. We're paying for it. You know why we're paying for it? Because we're leasing a lot of it to you guys. We're making alliances and just trying to keep the general peace or power. Okay, it gets a little out of control if you let it. That's what he's talking about. The markets don't like volatility. I'll tell you what, you want President Trump negotiating every aspect of everything because he wants to come out ahead in these negotiations. It's a sport to him. He wants to win. He's not trying to tank the country like Obama, Biden, Clinton, Kerry, Newland. They're trying to tank the United States. The Democrats, the deep state, hate the United States. They hate that we're a resistance force for their unbridled piracy. They want to steal everything not locked down. And they want to lock down you if you get in their way. They'll take you out in Butler. They'll take you out on a golf course. They'll take you out with Lawfare, Letitia James, and Alvin Bragg. They'll firebomb your fucking car. These people are domestic terrorists. They're traitors to America. And the Democrats, the deep state, they have all scrambled their eggs together into one 21% approval rate clump of shit that doesn't do anything to help the United States. They're actively trying to subvert, overthrow, and destroy our country from within. So yeah, Trump shakes the box. Markets don't like volatility. Hey, markets, hang tight a minute. We actually have solid leadership for the first time in your lives. Because I promise you, the Obamas, the Bushes, the Clintons, the Bushes, go back and you're going to find a lot of people who just did what their corporate masters told them to do. And it's our job to loot America. Let's go. Let's throw gold bars off of the Titanic, as they said.
Knew this going in. You know, Trump wasn't a Trojan horse like Joe Biden, who pretended to be middle of the road when he was roadkill in the middle of the road. Trump was transparent on trade for 40 years, even when people were laughing about it. So, but people said, okay, we like the whole package. I said I like the whole package, even though ignorant on tariffs. I didn't even know what they were like 2 years ago. That's on me, all right? But you don't marry Ozzy Osbourne and then act shocked when he does drugs. You don't marry Charlie Sheen and act outraged when he's not monogamous.
That's actually a pretty decent comparison right there. Oh my God, the comparison between Ozzy Osbourne and Joe Biden mumbling and bumbling. Wow, that is I hadn't thought about those two as one. I have to remember that and write that down. Where's my notepad?
We knew what Trump's superpower is, and we know how it works, and we've accepted it. Only amateurs use the word cave because clearly you've never engaged in a negotiation. And negotiation begins at extremes, and you work towards a middle. Most of these countries are at a standstill, so they got to work towards us. It's a process toward agreement. It is not a cave when somebody agrees with you. Likewise, Trump always starts at an extreme, an audacious start that resets the table, and then you work from there. The idiots in the media have never worked in a negotiation, or if they have, it's through their agent, and your agent sucks. I've been in negotiations where they've offered me an embarrassingly low number to start, and I'm not insulted because I know that's smart. Why would you not start at the lowest level? Likewise, why would you start at the highest level? So I come in with an embarrassingly high number. You wouldn't believe the things I have asked for. Some of the things I've asked for, I look back on and I go, I can't believe I asked for that. But the thing is, that's how you start. You start way over here, they say way over there, and you just But government doesn't understand that because they're always negotiating with somebody else's money.
Yep.
So they don't need to negotiate. America is like Tom Brady in his prime.
Okay, hold on. He's talking about Tom Brady in his prime, but that is such a great point. It's like why you never want to play a game of poker against somebody who doesn't have money in. If like to play a free game, it's not a real game. If you can't lose your own money, it's not a game of poker. Never play a free game of poker because then you don't have the same. And even if that's just buy it, throw $1 in and get a stack of chips and now you'll play. At least you have a reason to care. If you don't care, you just throw chips. I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm all in. You would never do that if you had $10 in the game, $20 in the game, $100 in the game. You would never do it that way. But like Guffeld is saying right there, this is about a government that doesn't negotiate with their own money. So they don't care. They've never cared. It's not that they couldn't care. I mean, it is also that they haven't had to care. So why would they care? This is all brand new territory.
And Trump.
Talking about Tom Brady in his prime, I believe, and Trump.
Is his agent working on his behalf. And if he wasn't a bastard about it, he would be derelict in his duties.
So you asked Fox for a jet and then you settled on a car.
This is how you do everything. In fact, that's what makes negotiating fun. I wish I knew this when I was younger. Are the Democrats authentic? No, they are not.
No.
There you go. It's a pretty good clip for a lot of reasons. Secretary Bessent talking about what's going on Wall Street and Main Street. I think I saw that this guy is the #1 highest approval rating cabinet pick from Trump so far. So he's doing an okay job. What do you think?
What Howard said on the trade queue, that we've got over 75 countries that want to come in. So it'll be Treasury, Commerce, Jameson at USTR, and we're putting a process in place. And as you said, you're going to be part of the negotiations too, because I've had these countries call me up and the Secretary Bessent, we're happy you're going to be negotiating. I said, well, President Trump's going to be involved too. So bring your best deal. On the budget, it's moving quickly in the House and the Senate thanks to your leadership. We're also going to have debt ceiling in there, so we're going to get an increase in the debt ceiling. And that will be the done and dusted for
part of the bill that we just got to vote on today.
Part of the bill. It'll be done and dusted for 2 years. We won't have to worry about that. And then
and I will say this constant budget battle crap, it is really tiring. It is really bad. I don't like that it's so heavy front loaded. It seems like it's more spending than I would be happy with. I get that. But also to just get it done, get it out of the way and get to work. As long as you keep cutting and keep streamlining and keep refining and keep improving. All right. Because you have to just be able to, when you spend all your time on the distractions, you can't get the big picture shit done. So sometimes you'll overpay for the ability to just get those headaches out of your head and stay focused on what matters. I think there's a big value to that.
I gave a speech yesterday to 1,400 small and community bankers, and they were so happy to hear from your administration. And I told them Wall Street's done great for the past 4 years, 10 years, 20 years. It can continue doing great, but it's Main Street's turn now, and it's those small bankers through deregulation, through emphasis on Main Street, your Main Street agenda, bringing back jobs, that is going to power the smaller communities. And then finally, the bond auction went very well yesterday. We had a lot of foreigners show up as the support, showing that the U.S. is still the best place to invest. The inflation report, as you said, was quite good. And energy prices are down more than 20% since January 20th.
Amazing. It's great. Really good. Good numbers.
Great number.
Thank you.
I'd echo.
Heck yeah, good numbers, great numbers. I'll skip this. It's a 3-minute clip, but it is Candace Owens and Jillian Michaels talking about the fact that you did not see the full arrest tape. Doggone it.
I'm about to wake you up. Ready?
Girl,
I'm about to take your red pill.
Get off.
No,
He
no.
was handcuffed. He
I'm about to
gave
give you the red
up.
pill.
He almost sprayed the people in the crowd.
Red pill, blue pill. You only get one.
Give me the.
I'm going to hit you with the red pill.
I want the red one.
Have you ever seen the full arrest tape?
No.
You've only seen 9 minutes that were shot on the side of the sidewalk by Darnella Frazier because the Minnesota prosecution locked down the full arrest tape from the officers. You watch it, your whole mind is going to explode. Okay. First and foremost, they tried to peaceably arrest this man. It's very clear he ingested more or whatever was in his car, trying to get away with it, whatever. They peaceably put him in the back of a cruiser. Okay. And he says, I don't want to be in the car because I can't breathe. I have claustrophobia. The guys say, we just took you out of this car. What do you mean you have claustrophobia? Why are you acting funny? He asks the guy in the car who was with him, did he just ingest something? Did he do something? George Floyd asks the police officer to put him on the ground himself. Mama, which the media didn't tell you, they made you think that he was calling for his mom. It's not true. And there's a previous arrest where he also calls for his mom, where he survived, which was like from a month earlier because he was a repeat offender.
The mom thing, I'll never get that out of my head.
They never showed you the in the court case who testified and said, I'm Mama. His white girlfriend was Mama. Okay. He was calling. He was calling. 1,000% facts. The media never showed this. It was so irresponsible. But his girlfriend testified and said that, I'm Mama. It's what they call each other affectionately. And obviously they were still in a relationship. And I just always think about, and what her and I discussed is, had the media had been more responsible and just reporting on the facts, even if you came to the conclusion he'd still be alive today, even if it was because he ingested something, there was something different Derek Chauvin could have done in the end, we would not have been at each other's throats if these simple facts, at least in the way that we were, if these simple facts were introduced with more clarity, with more perspective, with an aim to actually be more honest and not just wanting to see people war with one another, which is really what it came about. And I really strongly encourage you, because you can now find that on YouTube, encourage you, if you have only ever seen the 9-minute arrest tape, for you to watch the entire thing. Like, go on YouTube, watch the entire thing, because it will change your perspective on the media. And like I said to her, it should have been a story about, drug abuse, opioid abuse, and things that would have brought Americans closer together, because everyone knows about, has dealt with addiction in some capacity. I believe so. I don't know a single person whose lives have not been touched by addiction in some capacity, someone in their family, someone they love. And the media just never wanted that. Same thoughts, same patterns, same timeline.
Okay, I don't know what this last thing is. What is this last thing?
Again and again. Designing your dream life is not just...
Okay, I don't know what the rest of this video is. But if you didn't watch the whole video, you're missing out. You're missing out because the context was, the guy was having a medical event. He couldn't breathe from the minute that this thing started. He was having a panic attack. He was having a heart attack. He was having an overdose reaction. This was no engagement with, it was just from the beginning. He was peaceably arrested and put in the backseat of the car. Why was this timeline not shown with clear markers of here's the story of what we know? Just lay out what we know and let us watch it. But it was only certain clips, and it was only repeated on blast so that it could be used as an agenda item to get Trump out of office, to get fires burning in the streets, to get death and destruction that could be blamed on MAGA. So you could use really dark phraseology. You could go super racist, super violent. That's what the Democrats did. And we don't hate them enough for what they did to ruin this country during that George Floyd era. Yeah, it's interesting. Bella's Chance, you're right. In past years, I don't think I knew or cared who the Secretary of the Treasury was. By the way, I'm still waiting. To go into Fort Knox. I think they're giving them time to stock it back up. But my point on Fort Knox is this. I haven't heard anyone say it. You need to bring in a smelter, a smelting facility, a portable smelting unit, whatever it is. I want every single bar melted back down. I want to make sure that it's actual gold, not tungsten painted gold. Stamp it MAGA, put the date on it, and go, as of this date, these stamps individually numbered are going to sit in these pallets. They're going to be cataloged in this particular space. And you can ensure that these are actual gold bars. We've smelted them. Because I wonder how much fake gold is sitting around. You've heard these reports of other countries going crazy, re-importing all of the gold that's been offshored elsewhere. So maybe all of that talk was just once again, it was a warning to shake things up and get things back to the way they're supposed to be. That's what I would do. Brillin Hollyhand is saying that there is a rumor about Pete Hegseth, who may be ordering the declassification of all files pertaining to Benghazi. And that would be huge. And we'll just say, let's hope so. Justice long overdue for all the American traitors like Clinton, Obama, Biden, etc. There you go. Let's see if Benghazi comes up again. Doge findings, this time 5.1 billion, it looks like, being cut from the defense budget. Pete Hegseth. Check out our page on Instagram if you want to watch this full video. China versus the United States. Who really has the power? Guys, China unleashed COVID on us. China steals our shit. China rigs the system against us. Yeah, that's what America does. Okay. Well, catch us, stop us. We caught you. Let's stop you. I am sick of China. I am sick of COVID. I'm sick of trade imbalances. I'm sick of them stealing our intellectual property. And it's about damn time we recalibrate and make sure that the things Americans need are produced in America. Make America the one-stop shop that has the ability to be self-sufficient, self-sustainable. That's how you run a country. This globalism crap, I am done with it. Ross Perot, you hear that giant sucking sound? Now, come on now. You hear that giant sucking sound? Yeah, that's America. That's NAFTA sucking away all of our jobs. Now, wait a minute. Let me finish. That giant sucking sound, that's NAFTA. NAFTA taking your jobs. Bush and Clinton. Something like that. Bella's Chance saying, right on. You must test the authenticity of our gold. I agree. David saying, what a surprise. The media lied again. Gavin knew some of what he did was bad. That's a clever wordplay there. Gavin knew some of the things he did were bad. We call him new scum. Yes, David, we will once again echo this every single day. When are we going to see or hear of major sweeps and arrests? When? It's the only chance we have. It's the only chance we've had in our lifetimes to catch them and stop this shit. A small, limited, efficient, effective government. Oh my God, could you imagine? The smallest and most effective and most efficient. Oh my gosh, that'd be so great. Anyway, back to China. Who holds the power? Here's Kevin O'Leary talking to that person. Who is that person? I don't know.
You worry about China taking its own nuclear option of selling U.S. treasuries?
Go ahead. Listen, at the end of the day, the upper hand is the size of the economics. It's basically that. If people are unemployed by the hundreds of thousands in China, Xi's job is gone. We all know that. The upper hand is the larger economy. So, you know, I don't want to talk about war here with bombs. Yeah. This is an economic war. And right now, I know who has the upper hand. I'm sorry. Money talks and BS walks. And that's what's going to happen here. We can have the rhetoric, but I just say screw around with this 25% stuff. 400% tariffs, shut down the markets. He gets on a plane, Geneva, Switzerland, let's talk. I'm just tired of the rolling theft. I'm just tired of it.
Do you worry about China taking its own nuclear option of selling U.S. treasuries?
Go ahead. Listen, at the end of the day,
that was the beginning.
The upper hand is the size of the economics. It's basically that. If people are unemployed by the hundreds of thousands in China, Xi's job is...
Okay, yeah. So they're going after China pretty hard right now. Yeah, this is what I was saying. Eric Daughtry saying, Trump Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is found to hold the highest net approval rating out of Trump's senior officials at 14%, according to a JL Partners poll. All right, so the economy, we feel like we're on track. Eerily reminiscent of how we were doing until China unleashed COVID on us. Yes, David. We and a majority of people around the world already knew that these people are criminals. What day does it really matter? Things are going to go crazy. People don't understand. They're going to lose their minds anyway. Yeah. So just whatever. Bella's Chance says, I've decided we won't see arrests and indictments till right before midterms. That would be a huge mistake. That would be a huge mistake. Trust me, if you drop this nuclear blast on Obama, Biden, Clinton, Schiff, Schumer, Pelosi, call them out for all of their treason, remove all of the power players from their lineup, they're not going to recover from that. A massive power vacuum. And I know power vacuums are, they're crapshoots. You go into Iraq and you remove Saddam and what comes in could be worse. And power vacuums, I get it. But no, don't wait till midterms. They are actively trying to off Trump over and over and over again. So go now. Go now, go now, go now. I hate the waiting. Tom Petty, the waiting is the hardest part. President talking about tariffs in the first country to come together for a deal.
How close are we to the first country coming to actually make a deal with the United States over tariffs? Is it days, months?
Well, I think it's very close, but we have to have a deal that we like. We don't want a deal that's going to be a bad deal, or I could make every deal in one day if I wanted to. I could do this in one day. I could just say, here's what we'll do. And I was saying to the people before, to Scott, mostly to Scott and Howard, and some of the other people that work with us on the negotiations. We have a lot of law firms that have paid me a lot of money in the form of legal fees. We're going to probably use those firms to, if we can, I think we can, I'll make a contribution to the country. But they're great firms. They're the best firms, the biggest, and really the most prestigious. And we may be using them to help you guys out, because you're going to need a lot of lawyers. And I'm not sure Pam's going to be happy if I say, can you send over about 200 lawyers that work on trade? She's working on criminal stuff, and I think that's going to be her focus more than anything else. So we'll find out if we can do that. But we have a lot of lawyers that you've been reading about where they paid $100 million a firm on average. Now we have The final 4 or 5 are at $125 million. So I have a lot of legal fees I could give to you people, and we might as well use them. Hopefully I won't need that many legal fees or that much. I may. Who knows? After it ends, after we leave, maybe I'll need it. But if I do, it's not going to be very pleasant. So I think we're going to try to use these very prestigious firms to help us out with the trade, because we have a lot of countries. But we want to make deals that are proper for the United States, not just we can make deals easily. We want to make them proper.
So, yeah, you don't want to make the wrong deal. I wouldn't want to make the wrong deal. No deal is better than the wrong deal.
The whole idea of today's conversation.
And here's Kevin O'Leary talking about the deal and talking about what's going on.
Was just to get to a reciprocal playing field, a even playing field.
So, Mr. O'Leary, what if there was a company called WeatherTech? And they produce really nice mats for their car.
I have them in my F-150.
And they woke up one day and they looked on Alibaba and they saw that their products were being sold on Alibaba. And they looked at their shipping, and they never had done any business with Alibaba. And they looked just like the mats that they produced in Illinois, and they even had their name on it, right? What could they do to stop this theft of their product? And they got nothing for it.
So China stole their company.
What would be
the accusation? I'm not familiar with this WeatherTech thing, but is this really happening?
Their recourse right now.
There is nothing they can do. You have just told the story of 1 million small businesses in America over the last 20 years. They innovate, they create, they're entrepreneurs, they prove their product in the American consumer market at around 5 million in sales. They're knocked off. By whom? China. Very often, the same plants that ran the molds under a relationship they had with the company. A lot of companies went to China 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and put their molds there. And during the day, the company would run the WeatherTech mat, in this example, here theoretically. And then at night, they'd run the knockoff mat. And they would bring it into the market, let me guess, 30% off retail of WeatherTech. And I've seen this happen countless times. And it's
But stuff's cheaper if it comes from China. Oh, yeah, when they steal your product. Oh, when they use slave labor to make it. Come on.
Some cases where the company's very small, they go out of business. And nobody hears that tree falling in the forest. It happens thousands of times. There's such an immense opportunity here to just enforce existing laws. But really, at the end of the day, the reason that behemoth company couldn't do anything about it, they have no access to the Chinese courts. They can't resolve the complaint through litigation, as we do here. So my recommendation is, look, if you're a Chinese company and you want to use our courts to litigate your complaint, sorry, not until you open yours. We'd love to work with you, but unless it's a reciprocal play, the whole idea of today's conversation was just to get to a reciprocal playing field, a even playing field. American companies have always been very competitive anywhere on earth when given a chance on a transparent and competitive playing field. That's not the case in China. I mean, we're all saying the same thing here. It's got to get fixed. And finally, here we are with tariffs being the excuse. But now I think she has to come to the table, and I hope it happens. And I'd like to see tomorrow morning 400% tariffs. The whole idea of today's conversation.
400% tariffs to make it happen fast. I didn't realize it was that bad.
The arrogance and privilege of this fucking multimillionaire sitting at his desk trying to lecture.
Okay, sorry. Let me set this up here. This is Megyn Kelly going on one about John Oliver.
This young woman about how she's fine. It was just a concussion. By the way, that's enough. You absolute jerk. But listen to what actually happened to her. Weirdly, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that either in his monologue. I didn't hear about Riley Gaines again having to change and get naked in a locker room in front of a man, Will Thomas. And I didn't hear anything about Peyton McNabb's actual injuries that she somehow managed to get through in order to have some semblance of a sports career while in high school, which doesn't take away 1 second from her ongoing headaches, from the bullying that she felt she suffered, from the partial paralysis that
she got bullied for being partially paralyzed because a man was allowed to mess her up in a sporting contest.
She had on her right side. The arrogance.
Huh. I was really hoping this clip was going to include the John Oliver part where he has no sympathy or empathy in his heart for this young girl or any girls. But I guess we got to look for that. So when you find the John Oliver clip, let's look for it. Minimizing the damage done to women who have to fight men in sports.
You didn't see this.
Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson is.
There's a guy's name I want you to be aware of. We touched on it before. Let's just give you a quick update on John Pelletier.
Calling for the police chief, John Pelletier, to be on leave after he was named in a lawsuit tying him to Hollywood celebrity Sean Diddy Combs.
But wait a second. Isn't that guy also the same guy that was in...
My name is John Pelletier. I'm a captain with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
But wait, there's more.
Connected to the 2017 Vegas massacre.
No, there's still more.
Response?
That is possible. That's what we're sharing here internally. That is possible that there will be many children.
850 missing children, according to Fox.
You can't make this up, man.
I oversee the Major Violator and Narcotics Bureau.
Former Metro Police Captain is refuting claims that he was involved in a cover-up related to Sean Diddy Combs. In a criminal complaint,
this guy is everywhere.
It alleges that current Maui Police Chief John Pelletier was hired to provide security for Combs back in 2018. It claims Pelletier posed as a sheriff's deputy in California to respond to an alleged gang rape involving Combs. The complaint also claims all defendants directly committed violations of aiding, abetting, and inducing the sex trafficking venture and sex trafficking of plaintiffs in this suit.
We got Jim look back at his history here with the department shows that he was
How are you a part of 3 massive things like this?
Actually praised for his dedication
without being a direct henchman. I mean, you're on Forrest Gump levels of how were you connected to all these stories at once? I was running. I had about 15 Dr. Peppers.
To sexual assault prevention, which may be surprising for some, given the
I ran security for P. Diddy.
The allegations of this lawsuit.
So
I was in Maui when the fires hit.
Let me see if I got this straight. The same guy that was the commanding officer at the time of the 2017 Las Vegas shooting, which
Mama always says country concerts in Las Vegas are like a box of chocolates.
To this day is extremely hard to explain and doesn't make any sense at all for a mountain of reasons that I can't go into because it would make the video way too long. Clearly seems to be a very manufactured event. That same commander is also the guy who was in charge when Maui gets hit with the biggest wildfire in history.
Mama always said wildfires are like a box of chocolates. They're overpriced in Maui. So just keep your eyes peeled on this John Pelletier. Watch this whole video if you like. It's a nice compilation of this. You want to hear about CIA's potential involvement in protests?
Elon. They're literally standing out there with signs that say arrest Elon Musk.
Listen, I guarantee it's organized. I guarantee it's organized by the same people that are going to lose a shitload of money based on all these discoveries at Doge. There's no way they're not. If you look at what Doge is uncovering, what they're uncovering with this USAID stuff, a lot of that stuff was organizing through NGOs protests. They organized the attempt at getting Trump impeached.
I thought you were going to say killed.
They organized the impeachment.
That's come out.
They also USAID spent $50 million on the lab that invented coronavirus.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of money involved in this not working. And when you have a lot of money involved, you're going to have organized protest. When you see protests, we all want to think protests like the 1960s. Yeah, fight the war, man. It's like organic like peace, love, and hippie shit. But that's not what this is. What this is organized, funded protests where someone is spending a lot of money and they're mobilizing other NGOs. They're using their access to these mailing lists and all these different things. They're putting these things together.
Yeah, but do you think that the average liberal person, do you think that they're going to wake up and come around? Or do you think that they're going to be in like agony for 4 years and be...
What if it works? Like, what if the world gets safer, the country gets safer, the economy improves, and they don't attack civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, all these things that everybody's worried about. And then at the end of it, you realize like, hey, maybe I was wrong.
I mean, that's my question though. Are they capable of that kind of self-reflection?
Well, we're saying they as if it's like one different, like one kind of person.
No, I mean...
There's so many different people in they.
Elon. They're literally standing out there with signs.
That's kind of what you said. Was that Bella or David? There you go. Just like they did with the JFK, how many different organizations or people could be blamed for the offing. There's a lot of groups and there's a lot of they. It's not like they is one thing. They is a lot of things. David saying China's definitely another country that needs to be released from slavery. Man, it's such a mess. So many evil people walking the streets. Yeah, so you got to be prepared. You got to have a game plan. You got to be heads up. Be alert. Be prepared. We need SCOTUS to jump in and reverse this. Governor Jared Polis signs Colorado's not an assault weapons ban that restricts the sale of virtually all common semi-automatic firearms. It's completely unconstitutional. He knows it is. This is according to Mr. Guns and Gear. Completely unconstitutional. He knows it, but he doesn't give a shit, and will use Colorado to all the legal battles to be filed tomorrow. He's a statist with big political aspirations, a very dangerous person to have in our republic. We will put shall not be infringed. No infringing, please. Hey, just a quick reminder. Hey, remember when they outlawed fresh air, parks, beaches, hugs, family connection, sunshine, in kids' playgrounds? Remember that? But it was okay to go line up at McDonald's drive-thru because they cared about your health. If you haven't worked it out yet, they don't give a shit about your health. Might be a wise idea to never listen to the public health advice ever again. That's a great picture. Spraying down a, what is that? Like, that's a goalpost that's covered in McDonald's in hazmat uniforms. Dan Aston Gregory says 5 years ago today, they locked us down, not because we were sick, not because, oh yeah, this is where I have to be treated like a child, like an imbecile. For countervailing views on health and elections, please look at the scroll at the bottom of the screen. Go to cdc.gov and who.int and cisa.gov/rumor control. Because they think we're idiots. 5 years ago, they locked us down, not because we were sick or dangerous, but because we were told to be afraid of each other, fresh air, of asking questions. It wasn't science, it wasn't safety, it was obedience. They masked our children, they closed our businesses, they isolated the elderly, they banned funerals, but left Tesco open. And we were told it was for our own good. 5 years later, what have we had? No apology, no justice, no admission of guilt, no accountability for the damage. The truth? Lockdowns weren't a mistake. They were a psychological operation, a test of how far fear could go. And there you are, family members saying he is at peace and we are so sorry, instead of letting you be there with your family. A kid being blocked off from the park, the playground. Delicious Taco says, I've got it. We'll force people to stay inside and read terrifying news about the disease and economy for all 16 waking hours. Surely this will restore stability. Wow, look at that mask. Or look at that sign about putting on a mask. Yeah, you got to crochet a mask. It's all about a status symbol. Hey, remember when they took, is this in Venice? Where they took the, I think I've been here. Venice Beach, Santa Monica area. It could be anywhere else, but yeah, filling in the skate parks with sand so that people can't use them, because that's science. Christening your baby with a squirt gun at a distance, wearing a mask that doesn't have the ability to filter out a virus, a cloth mask. The insanity of the collective egoic mind, amplified by science and technology, is rapidly taking our species to the brink of disaster. Evolve now or die. That is our only choice now. Eckhart Tolle. Tolle or Tolle? Is that Eckhart Tolle or Tolle? Andrew Sullivan here saying Fauci lied about the lab leak to save his reputation. There's a reason that his pardon goes back to 2014. Let's go get him. Let's find a way to hold Fauci accountable. President Trump talking about tariffs with China.
Mr. President, China retaliated today by reducing the number of American films that can be shown there. What's your reaction to them now targeting cultural exports from the United States?
I think I've heard of worse things. Yes, please.
The new movie business is kind of bad, kind of terrible. That might be a net positive for him, in all honesty. All right, let's move off of Instagram, and we will do a rapid fire round here on our X feed. Make sure you're following the New American Media on X at American_Media_. Hit like, hit subscribe. Add your comments, question of the day. Type in your name or your initials and tell me where you're watching from. We got Bella's Chance on the Cape. David up in Ontario. Kenneth down in Florida. I want to know where you're at and where you're listening from. And even if you're watching after the live broadcast, say hello. Say, hey, I was watching the show and you asked for my initials or my name and where I was watching from. So I'm so-and-so from here and there. All right. Wall Street Maverick sharing this. What can we do to stop living in fear? Click, turn off the idiot box, and follow smarter people on social media. Let's talk about insurance, unemployment insurance fraud.
Unemployment insurance fraud. That trust needs to be whole for the American people. When we need it for who deserves it. That's not what we're seeing in the numbers that we saw last night, again, exposed by our partners at DOGE at the Department of Labor. Since 2020, over $400 million of payments have gone out already. And when you hear these numbers, apparently in the United States, we have over almost 25,000 people who are over 115 years old who are collecting $59 million that we have sent out to people. Talk about fraudulent behavior. Mr. President, 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old have collected fraudulent payments at the tune of $254 million has gone out. And lastly, 10,000 people who have not been born yet, 15 years into the future, $69 million, and they haven't even been born yet. When one case, they will be born 129 years from now. The United States government sent them $41,000, and they're not born yet. So, under the Department of Labor, those are the things that we're uncovering. I couldn't be more honored to tell the American people that we're bringing back their dollars, and we're saving them and returning them to the United States Treasury.
There you go. Bravo. Happy to see it. Happy to hear it. I want these updates every week. $69 million. Did you do that, Elon? Because it's 69. 69 was my football playing number, by the way. So there have been plenty of jokes about the number. So the question about these 25,000 people over 115 years old collecting 59 million and 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old collecting 69 million. 69 million, 15 years into the future, they haven't even been born yet. That's 10,000 people. Question is this just bad data entry, or are these fraudulent people? Fake people who are giving identities to illegal aliens. All right, so here's the top story of the day. Tulsi Gabbard announced at the cabinet meeting that her office has obtained evidence of massive vulnerabilities on voter machines that have allowed hackers to potentially flip votes. Let's take a listen.
I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this, election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time, and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections. I've got a lot.
That needs to happen. This is coming from our Director of National Intelligence. We have to be smart, and we have to find ways to guard our ballots and the balloting process for maximum oversight and transparency. Record every tabulation, save the paper ballots, voter ID required. It's the only way our country can stay a country. Speaking of, Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones talking here. What do you think they might be willing to do in this country to steer us toward the next big scam? Could there be a false flag incoming?
I want to make a prediction because I just want to be on tape saying this. I'm going to say it again even more clearly this time. And of course, I hope I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong. But I do think a lot of the really crazy, bitter ethnic hate that you see on social media is fake. It's people were saying it don't mean it. I think it's like, the Klansmen you'd see marching and you're like, there are no Klansmen. And you're like, what? And of course you find out that it's fake. And it's designed to convince people that there's like a lot of roiling ethnic hatred that doesn't really exist. And
it's all theater, people.
And that's a predicate.
Yeah, Patriot Front.
Exactly.
I mean, is this organic or is this not organic?
It's Charlottesville, but that's happening online right now. And I know that it is. And I think that at some point, I pray I'm wrong, but there's going to be an act of.
In Charlottesville, wasn't that organized to get the scorpion and the tarantula together to shake them up, to get some chaos and get it on camera? It's not organic, it's theater.
To violence, ethnic inspired violence, of hate inspired violence, actual hate, like killing people. And I really hope I'm wrong, but I feel like this is real, and that event will be used to shut down free speech on social media.
100
because that is the threat. And you saw it with TikTok, like, oh, we need to ban TikTok because China owns it. No, nothing to do with China. It had everything to do with opinions that the people in charge didn't like being expressed there. And it's like, we're just going to, and the Congress went along with it. But if there's an act,
you can't be critical of certain nations for some reason. We can be critical of every state in the United States, but we can't be critical of states elsewhere, nation states, nations.
Act of violence and innocence or
I've heard that. I've heard that a couple of times.
Murdered, and I pray that doesn't happen because I hate that above all. But it has happened, and I feel like it could happen again. And people say, and a lot of good people will go along with it, just like they went along with the censorship of you and the destruction of your life. Because they were told, like, he's bad. He had something to do with murdering children. And then people just shut down. They're like, I don't know. Alex Jones is something with murdering children. So whatever they do to Alex Jones, like, is fine.
And I can't tell you how many times in front of my family, people walk up and they go, you killed those kids.
Exactly.
And I'll always go, really? I did, huh? And why am I walking around? And then just like, well, you know what you did. But what you said is so important. The last ingredients is the false flag on a big illegal alien demonstration or a black church. Because the Democrats keep saying, Trump's coming to kill the migrants.
Let's continue to pray against any nefarious plots. May it revisit themselves tenfold and be thwarted.
We got to rise up.
Yeah, or something else like that. But where innocents are murdered by a crazy person, or maybe an actual crazy person used, or whatever.
Or a MAGA member. See, that's what MAGA represents. It's not about a crazy person. It's about trying to pin the tail on Trump.
Maybe it just happens organically. Maybe if you stoke enough ethnic division online, it's clearly bad. I mean, there are people who have, views that are, are mad at other ethnicities. I mean, that's real. Okay. But there are also big actors who are not real. They're doing it on purpose.
And we know who they are.
Yes, we do know who they are.
And for strategic reasons.
I don't want to get involved in all that filth, but
let's just say we've seen the documents separately.
100%. And they're stoking this stuff, and maybe it just organically inspires someone to commit murder, a mass murder. And again, I just pray, as someone who hates all violence, to say it again, I pray that's not the case. But
let's just say this. The people they're mainly attacking are the ones financing them. It's the oldest trick in the book, Hegelian dialectic. And so just be aware of that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and I just don't, and I think and the only reason I bring that up is because I worry about it every day.
I do too, because that's the next big move.
Free speech is the foundation of a free society.
And Alex was one of the first people to get smacked with free speech. 2016 at the Republican convention. They took Milo out. They took, they can take fringe characters, and if nobody stands up, and I wasn't a gypsy, so I said nothing. Then they came after the trade unionists, but I wasn't a trade unionist, so I said nothing. Then they came after me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Freedom of speech is the cornerstone to all this.
It's not a free society. You're a slave. If you can't say what you think, you're a slave. It's really simple. And we don't have slavery in this country. It's a free country.
And when it happens, I pray it doesn't. That's the next move. So we're predicting this so that there's enough eyes and ears on it and enough people watching so they don't pull it off. Because that's the thing. Everything I used to predict basically came true because the globalists were still in power. They're so disorganized, have so many problems now. A lot of times when we're able to get out ahead of things, you and others and Trump and Joe Rogan, we're able, and Elon's with a huge voice, second only to Trump, we're able to disrupt what they're doing, and enough people see through it. So if it does happen, they try to stampede us into blaming whoever it is. Oh, the Crooks guy, he acted alone. Well, this will be some right-wing Trump supporter with a MAGA hat.
100%.
That'll get killed by the SWAT team.
He was inspired by hate online. Therefore, you're not allowed to have legitimate opinions or your own opinions. And, God can decide whether they're legitimate or not. But if you're a free man, a free person, you have a right to say what you really believe, period. And that cannot be encumbered, or else you're a slave.
Absolutely.
Or else you're a slave. Well said. I mean, Tucker got wrapped up in that Fox crap. You don't get rid of your number one guy. It wasn't about, they fired Tucker over voter machines that have clearly obvious, identifiable, objectively vulnerable tendencies, capabilities, and design flaws, as discussed by our director of national intelligence. They got rid of Tucker Carlson. Unreal. Brian Cater saying, did everybody who worked so hard to get Trump and his horde of election deniers into the White House enjoy that cabinet meeting today, where the DNI engaged in a whole bunch of election denying talk? I mean, you want more proof that we're winning? Election fraud and the compromised machines are being openly and enthusiastically discussed on camera inside the White House during a key cabinet meeting. We have won and shall continue to win. Voter identification requirements, getting rid of the vulnerable voter machines. It's not about one particular brand. It's about any voter machine. And time again, oh no, our technology is proprietary. We can't really do an audit. If we can't do a full forensic audit at our discretion, if our federal government, who's overseeing, and I'd love to get into the nitty gritty of who oversees these posts, who oversees these elections, rather. Who's in charge of the elections? I want to know that. Who's in charge? Now, once we know who's in charge of the elections, I'd like to know. Who has the key to turn on internet access? Or why do the machines have internet access capabilities if they're not supposed to be hooked up to anything online? Can they be remotely turned on to the internet access? Can votes be flipped? Where's the full forensic audit in a blockchain thing that we can watch in real time and see the votes coming in, tabulate them, you lock them in, and you can't flip-flop them? Where is our proprietary ability to instant audit every single election everywhere? If we don't have that, and I've been told repeatedly we don't have that, it can't exist. There's no way to get that, and we'll forever not be able to do that with a ballot machine. Okay, cool. Then no ballot machines ever again. Convert them into ATMs. Get them the hell out of here. They're super heavy paperweights. I don't want to use a ballot machine ever again. If we can't run full forensic audits and have our own people in charge of making sure that all the key points are correct, these voter machine ballots shouldn't have the ability to connect to the internet. That could be remotely switched on. There's a million accusations about these. I don't see how it's any better than paper ballots. Paper ballots work in a lot of countries and you get done real quick. And by the way, you shrink wrap and seal. You have a device that shrink wraps it and seals it, stamps it, dates it, gives it an identifying tag or hologram, and you hold it in the school gymnasium locker for the 7 years that you're required to do it should you need to do a full forensic audit and count the paper ballots. Whatever needs to be done, there's a system and you need to follow it. So, yeah, that's called winning. Okay, there's a story about something happening to an R train man who expired. So there's a New York City subway and a man passed away and there are police looking for a suspect who abused that body. I don't even know what's going on with this story, but keep your eyes peeled for it. Here's video, allegedly of Mars. Notice anything about Mars? I don't know. 140 million miles away from us, and Elon says Starship will hopefully depart from Mars at the end of next year with Optimus Explorer robots. We covered this yesterday, but it's super important to understand how the deep state infiltrated our social media, and it might make you reconsider uploading all of your family pictures and sharing all your information with Facebook.
My name is Sarah Wynne-Williams, and I served as the Director of Global Public Policy at Facebook, now Meta, for nearly 7 years, starting in 2011. Throughout those 7 years, I saw Meta executives repeatedly undermine U.S. national security and betray American values. They did these things in secret to win favor with Beijing and build an $18 billion business in China. We are engaged in a high-stakes AI arms race against China. And during my time at Meta, company executives lied about what they were doing with the Chinese Communist Party to employees, shareholders, Congress, and the American public. I sit before this committee today to set the record straight about these illegal and dangerous activities. Meta's dishonesty started with the betrayal of core American values. Mark Zuckerberg pledged himself a free speech champion. Yet I witnessed Meta work hand in glove with the Chinese Communist Party to construct and test custom-built censorship tools that silenced and censored their critics.
The best of the best going after this, election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections. We're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this, election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward
All right.
your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
Okay, so Nick Sorter saying they found evidence of voting machines vulnerable to tampering to steal elections. Brian Cates saying, if you followed the 2020 steal from the beginning, oh yeah, that's where I have to hold on. See, you need countervailing views. Bella's Chance commented, have I missed it? Where's the news of the cat who cashed those Social Security checks illegally? Have they been found or arrested? And we said, exactly, Bella. Doge is saying that they're finding profiles that don't make sense. We're not hearing much about the cashing of benefits, but we did recently hear that people are voting with these suspects' Social Security numbers, though. Wondering if this is much ado about nothing, or if all of these really are smoking guns, and just the whole puzzle piece, the whole puzzle is coming together piece by piece. And Bella saying, thanks, guys. Just more arrests that aren't happening. I know. I don't want to keep the faith. I don't want to hope, but let's just hope. Sometimes things do take a couple minutes to get through.
Promoter.
So did you hear about this anonymous leaker from the White House, allegedly, back in the day? Wrote a book called Warning? Well, let's take a listen.
About him, and he wrote a book, anonymous, and I always thought it was terrible, and now we have a chance to find out whether or not it was terrible. But it was a work of fiction. Had a lot of publicity, got himself a nice job with CNN or one of them. And I think we have to do something about it. You can't have that happen. If that happens to other presidents, it wouldn't be sustainable for other presidents. They seem to be able to sustain. But if that happened to other presidents, I mean, it's just unfair. And if it was a Democrat president, I'd say that's a terrible thing. A thing like that can happen. That's a terrible thing. And it's time to find out whether or not somebody can do that. Can they write a book about very confidential meetings, and because they happen to be one of a lot of people in a room, and they go out and write a book, and worse than that, call it anonymous, like it's a big deal, and everybody's saying, who is it, who is it, who is it? Then it was found out who he was a long time later, and he got a lot of publicity off that one. He's like a promoter. But we're going to find out whether or not somebody's allowed to do that. I think it's a very important case, and I think he's guilty of treason, if you want to know the truth. But we'll find out. And I assume we're recommending this to the Department of Justice.
Yes, sir. I appreciate hearing the word treason, because he doesn't say treason enough, and I want to know that he's going after the treasonous people who have been selling America out for decades. Bro, you've got to get to work on that. We cannot heal until we punish the people who have been selling this country out, devaluing our currency, flooding this nation with non-Americans, stealing our benefits, raising prices, indoctrinating our children, taking away solid health care, taking away solid, healthy food, pumping us full of garbage ideas, garbage ideology, garbage food, garbage policies. Everything about this country has been backward for far too long. I love hearing him use the word treason. But once again, oh yeah, that's right, the first arrest will shock the world. Oh, will it? How many years are you waiting on that? 8 years?
Okay.
The jury's out on Pam Bondi, Cash Patel, and Dan Bongino. Jury's out.
Good. Terrible guy.
There you go. So that's something that's happening. We here you go. This is for Bella's Chance and for David, for Kenneth too. Kyle Becker asked the FBI to arrest one Democrat. Just arrest one. Turns out it's his lucky day. Tanya Fernandez Anderson, a woke BLM, former illegal alien on the Boston City Council, has been arrested by the FBI and indicted on 5 counts of wire fraud. Miracles do happen. Here she is.
What the do I have to do in this council in order to get respect as a black woman?
There you go. Kyle Becker's pretty happy. Hey, here's another dirtball. Remember this guy? George says, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting him. The man who went on a media tour gaslighting the nation about the stolen 2020 election will now be under investigation by the Justice Department. Thank you, President Trump, for ordering the investigation and stripping his security clearance. As someone who has been banned on YouTube for 4 years for correctly stating that the 2020 election was rigged, I feel like this is the beginning of vindication, says George. Here we go.
It's completely and utterly surreal. None of these lies have been substantiated to any extent. Every single one of them has been debunked.
Chris Krebs was director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, charged with protecting the 2020 election.
CISA. That's the one I always have to. Oh, is it still on the screen? Yeah, CISA.gov/rumor control. With a gun to my head, I have to say something like that on YouTube, or else they're going to say, oh, you have misinformation or community guidelines. How about fuck off? We're having an adult conversation here, and every adult conversation requires you to do your own research and not believe anything that you hear. Unlike the left, the deep state, who say, we're going to parrot a narrative and you must believe that wholeheartedly and don't listen to anyone who has a differing opinion. But we're the bad guys for having conversations, right? Yeah, we're the bad guys here. CISA.gov/rumor control. Get out of here. And if YouTube wants countervailing views so goddamn much, go ahead and put a tag at the bottom of the screen of the video and say, for countervailing views on this topic, visit CISA.gov/rumor control. Don't make us have to keep doing it. Google, YouTube, you are not the arbiters of truth. I need to frame this and put this up. Can't reach it easily. It's right here. Hold on. This was created for me, the New American Media. Trump in the Bronx. Last May. Bones Justice. Bones Justice made this. And he said he was a musician and he was from a little ways away. And he heard that President Trump was coming to speak to the Bronx. He's like, oh, man, I want to go see that. So what did he do? He went to Google. And he typed in Trump rally or Trump speech or Trump event. So they gave him the Trump speech, the Trump rally. He got on the train. He took this train to that train. He got on the thing. He did the thing, went over to the thing. Google sent him to the anti-Trump rally. They like to manipulate on the edges and just nudge. The Cass Sunstein, I'm just going to nudge. Little here, a little there. Our search results, and if you give you a favorable or an unfavorable opinion on things, that can sway the vote by up to 20, 30% they found. Pull up your study, whatever the exact percentage is, whatever it is. It matters. That guy, he typed in, I want to go to the Trump rally. They gave him the address to the anti-Trump rally. CISA, YouTube. You don't own the truth. You're manipulators, and you don't like us. You don't like our viewers. You don't like humanity. You try to silence us. We got a fucking First Amendment right to speak and have an open conversation about whatever the fuck we feel like talking about. Sorry, guys. For impact, I start cussing when I start thinking about First Amendment rights. Because whether you prefer cussing or not, it's covered under our First Amendment. It's a private platform. It's not a fucking private platform when the government is censoring our speech about COVID, about the election, about every fucking important topic. And if we dare discuss it, we get demonetized. We get shadow banned. We get memory hold. We get deranked. We get deboosted. You fuck with our content nonstop if we're not on Team Deep State. CISA. This guy working at CISA. 2020 was the most free and fair election in American history. Are you fucking crazy? 81 million totally legitimate Joe Biden votes. Fucking Joe Biden. That doesn't pass the Joe Biden sniff test. There is no universe. 81 million completely legitimate Joe Biden votes. Get the fuck out of here. Go to CISA.gov/rumor control. Because this guy, he said 2020 was the most free and fair election in history.
He called it the most secure election in American history.
I'm sorry, most secure election. I think I used free and fair, but I think the most secure. Here, let me just rewind it, this fucking guy.
Charged with protecting the 2020 election. He called it the most secure election in American history, and days later was fired by President Trump.
How secure was the 2020 election? Let me put it this way. It was the most litigated. It was.
Tell me what court actually took a case and brought it to trial. Because I think that number was very close to 0. So no, it wasn't litigated in a courtroom. It was blocked from entering the courtroom. And people like to say, oh, there's no jurisdiction. There's no jurisdiction. As if anybody from any of the 50 states couldn't argue that their civil liberties were removed, violated, silenced, and censored because their vote was sullied and diluted by insecure vote processes. Pennsylvania, where they changed the laws, despite not changing the laws. Unilaterally changing how things were done, going outside of actually passing a law to make it legal. Look, I'm not getting into the weeds on this shit. Anybody that could say 2020 was the most secure in history, guys, I don't know what else to tell you. What are they selling you an NFT next? What are they doing? They're going to pump and dump a crypto coin?
It was the most scrutinized. It was the most audited.
Let me see those full forensic audits. I feel like that number is close to 0. Where are these full forensic audits, pal?
This election was put through the ringer from so many different
ringer. This election was put through the ringer. Through the ringer.
It was put through the ringer.
Ringer. This election was put through the ringer.
This election was put through the ringer from so many different directions. There's no evidence that any machine that I'm aware of has been manipulated by a foreign power. Period.
Communist money from China and Cuba used to influence the election.
Look, I think we can go on and on with all the farcical claims that
farcical, because nobody looked in a court of law, because they were all blocked by many were blocked by saying you don't have standing to bring this case up. Anybody from any 50 state could say, we're all conjoined in this pact. Of course I'm impacted. You're going to change every relevant law to destroy this fucking country. You're going to change every relevant law to pump us full of 30 million illegal alien invaders. Oh, but we don't have jurisdiction. We don't have, we don't have standing, I think is what they called it. You don't have standing to bring this case. So with no standing, none of the courts touched the cases. So tell me what court found your assertions to be accurate. Because I don't recall seeing it.
And on with all the farcical claims.
Farcical claims, he thinks. Because we couldn't prove through full forensic audits that they're valid, you're calling it farcical since we couldn't prove it invalid.
That alleging interference in the 2020 election, but the proof is in the ballots.
The ballots.
The recounts are consistent with the initial count, and to me, that's further evidence, that's confirmation that the systems used in the 2020 election performed as expected, and the American people should have 100% confidence in their vote.
All right, well, guess what? We don't. And this guy is now under investigation, according to George here. Beheezy tweets. He says, thank you, President Trump, for ordering the investigation and stripping his security clearance. As someone who has been banned on YouTube for 4 years for correctly stating that 2020 was rigged, in his opinion, he feels like this is the beginning of vindication. What was the media's role in covering up Joe Biden's mental decline?
I sit here and I'll defend a little bit.
Chuck Todd, this is shocking.
Of this, in that I would argue the reason people were able to come to their own conclusion on Joe Biden is because of the media coverage. You know, look, we were subtle. He's using the back staircase. He's not using the front staircase. Hey, he's not doing any interviews. So there was this reluctance to draw the conclusion to say, is he not doing this? And that I agree with. That was held back a lot. I would argue it was also held back a lot back in the late 80s when it was clear Ronald Reagan wasn't necessarily running everything in the White House. Whether you want to call it decorum, whatever you want to call it, look, there were plenty of members of the media. I remember David Ignatius in the Washington Post, plenty of individual people questioning whether he should run. I certainly questioned whether he should run. You didn't understand, there were some of that. But I understand the argument about the collective on that front. The only thing I can chalk it up to is this, whatever you want to call it, this fear that some members of the media had sometimes that they would be perceived as helping Trump if they somehow diminished Biden, right? That it was some sort of zero-sum game. And I think this has been the fundamental mistake that many members of the traditional press have done.
You're damn right they covered it up. They'd rather lie to you than tell the truth if the truth helps President Trump. Let me say it again. Remember, says Charlie Kirk, they'd rather lie to you than tell the truth if the truth helps President Trump. Mike Lee shares this and says this student got suspended for asking why there were no American flags in his classroom. This cannot be true.
Parker Jensen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A senior and prospective U.S. Marine.
Yes, sir.
Noticed something that concerned him at his high school that violates state law.
So I'm only in 2 classes, but both of my classes do not have American flags.
Jensen took his concerns to the Baltimore County Board of Education.
I was looking to speak to a supervisor of some sort that regulates Baltimore County public schools.
Instead of speaking with someone,
3 cop cars for a kid.
The school system called the police and suspended him for 7 days.
You're actually suspended from the school. He used to be with this in the department.
Now,
do you believe Jensen's
for what?
Constitutional rights were violated?
Absolutely.
He has hired an attorney to fight back.
He did nothing wrong besides try to bring forth his First Amendment right and really enforce a Maryland law, which is to have American flags in every single classroom.
I've got to learn more about this. Mike Lee's posted, I'm assuming he did some legwork here. Baltimore County Public Schools called 3 police and suspended him for a week because he asked why there were no Is there any more to this story? That seems weird. Sean Davis says, breaking. According to the Federalist, they've obtained the Russiagate binder consisting of 7 separate files totaling hundreds of pages. It's in the interest of full transparency and disclosure that we're making the documents available for everyone to review on our Scribd page. Links to follow. Russiagate, Russiagate, Russiagate. All treason, treason, treason. Alex, here, what is this one? Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones exposed the Department of Justice funding at least $4 million to Sandy Hook plaintiffs in a government-backed effort to silence Alex Jones and silence free speech. Here are the receipts proving the DOJ funded millions through Sandy Hook organizations to silence myself and InfoWars. They'll be releasing more at noon. I guess that probably came out. Luke Radowski is asking, what type of advanced military tech do you think that Trump is alluding to?
And we're very powerful. This country is very powerful. Let me tell you, it's far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close. So nobody's going to do that, but I think that if that's what you're referring to, maybe it's not. But just and
he's saying stuff without saying stuff. Is he bluffing or is it accurate? Unlimited L's. They're sharing this video. It's the mother of a 17-year-old who was brutally stomped to death by a gang of bullies. She's now suing the school district. Jonathan Lewis, 17, was brutally beaten. Why is this not a race crime? This appears to be a light-skinned dude being beaten by 4 non-light-skinned dudes. If this were the opposite way, if a black kid was stomped by 4 white kids, this would be non-stop CNN, MSNBC coverage, right? Anything to push the Obama doctrine of race hatred. Jonathan Lewis, brutally beaten outside of a Las Vegas home on November 2023. Suffered severe head trauma and other serious injuries and passed away days later in the hospital. Dontrell Beaver, Damian Hernandez, Travion Randolph, and Gianni Robinson arrested and charged as adults. Their cases were later moved to juvenile court as part of a plea deal. The judge ordered all of them to spend an undisclosed length of time in juvenile detention center. His mother, Melissa Reedy, is suing the Clark County School District and Sandra Corona, who owns the property where the attack occurred, alleging wrongful death and negligence, saying the fight happened adjacent to and partially on Corona's property. It was a known gathering spot for criminal activity, and the lawsuit says previous attacks took place in that area. Also states Corona should have known that her property was a hot spot for criminal or violent activity.
They knew he was going to die, and that's how I feel. And they're letting them get away with murder. There is no justice for my son, Jonathan Lewis, that was stomped to death and murdered while 20 people stood there and did nothing more than film it and broadcast it to social media. I was told that they were going to plead guilty to murder and that the most they would get in the adult system would be 2 years. I would have disagreed with the deal being made entirely. They should be held accountable as adults.
Yeah, they should be held accountable as adults.
Made an adult choice. They knew that when they were stomping on my child's head, that he was going to die as a result. They knew he was.
I hate this story. You cannot let these violent monsters off with slaps on the wrist. This is madness. You know, and really, like people that have been peaceful their lives for many, many decades, and then something happens, you're like, wow, this was an unusual thing. But when you're just a kid and you're already that prone to violence, you're going to stay that prone to violence. This is another 3.5 minutes about Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. General Mike Flynn says, it's so important what she's saying. There's very direct evidence of election tampering that's known, has been known, and must be brought to light. It's vital for Americans to have confidence in any future election. The other bits of info dealing with RFK and MLK are also key, and the fact that she has to go rifling through storage lockers for evidence is insane. And the fact that none of it has been imaged is also insane. But it also shows how deeply corrupted our system of government, especially the USIC, has become over the years. Thank you, Tulsi and Trump, for your leadership. James O'Keefe, a Florida Tech president, is recorded admitting to tweaking the language of DEI courses to bypass DeSantis-backed DEI ban and secure $7 million in taxpayer funding. Then O'Keefe is escorted off campus after a heated confrontation. They are not smart people, the government. They're simply searching whatever comes back on the web, searching without understanding. Part of me driving back, I thought, why don't we fight back? Talked to the diversity cabinet, had a very good conversation. We modified some of the language. So that's all they're doing. They're not stopping DEI. They're just changing the name of it, doing the same illegal, racist, discriminatory stuff, sexist, discriminatory stuff. Check out that report from James O'Keefe. Zero Hedge is saying that hard hats time. Top of book depth is 6 digits. We have never seen this before, ever. Do you have any idea what that means? By the way, Dow watch. Beep, 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 beep. Dow is up 1.25 today. In the past 5 days, that's up 5.83. Down 3.25 in the past month. That big dip and then recovery, dip and recovery. Up 4.24 in the last year. Up 69% in the last 5 years. So, you know, come on, perspective, people. Places, people, perspective, people. But Zero Hedge is saying that the top of book depth is 6 digits. Rare Tapestry says top of book depth is 6 digits, refers to the order book in financial markets, where the total value of buy-sell orders at the best bid or ask prices has reached an unprecedented 100,000 or more, signaling extreme liquidity or market stress. So the total value of buy-sell orders at the best bid at best ask price is an unprecedented 6 digits, 100,000 or more. Historic event, as such depth has never been recorded, likely driven by significant market volatility or a surge in trading activity, probably tied to the 10-year Treasury yield at 4.5 and gold at $3,240. High order book depth can indicate large institutional activity or market uncertainty, often preceding sharp price movements. as seen in past events like the 2020 market crash when order book depth spiked before major sell-offs. This report here, we talked about this earlier, that SARS-CoV-2 was released at the Wuhan Military Games by Peter Daszak and Michael Callahan to cover up the H7N9 outbreak that was already underway. H7N9 is what killed 7 million people, not SARS-CoV-2, according to John Cullen. And of course, go to Countervailing Views, CISA.gov/rumor control, and CISA or CDC and WHO websites, because they want countervailing views. They would disagree. What did CNN say about influenza in China before COVID? It's got music. I'm not going to play it. Andrew Kerr reminding us 7 Americans may have contracted COVID in Wuhan in October 2019, several months before the start of the pandemic, according to a bombshell military report obtained by Free Beacon that Biden administration should have made public over 2 years ago. Mike Benz calls it absolutely insane. The Event 201 tabletop exercise playing out a bat-borne coronavirus being released in China was held the exact same day as the start of the Wuhan World Military Games, October 18, 2019. Jeffrey Tucker saying this might be the first admission from government that the Department of Defense knew of early spread of the U.S. COVID-19 from exposure in Wuhan, China, October 2019. Mike Benz saying Event 201 featuring would-be Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines and sponsored by the Gates Foundation and the World Economic Forum. Holy shit. What a collaboration of people you shouldn't trust. It happened the exact day as the start of the Wuhan military games where the Biden administration concealed evidence of the outbreak for years. Bombshell report rewrites the COVID outbreak timeline. COVID was circulating in Wuhan for months before China told the rest of the world, screw you, China. The report shows that we had a military delegation competing in those games in October, and 7 of those people got sick. Sometime in late March, they quietly released it. Is anyone surprised? In March, I don't think that's the immediate March following October, because President Trump was president for that. The Biden administration buried the COVID timeline. Joe Biden hid this from Americans. Why would he do that? Hey, here you go. The strategy of letting Democrats talk has got them to 21%. So let's listen to the Connecticut Dim Rep Johanna Hayes talking about the Lake and Riley Act. You know, the thing like everybody should be behind, regardless of party. Everybody should be behind the Lake and Riley Act, right?
As I've thought about it over the last couple months, I probably would have voted differently. It's a vote that I regret, but coming into this Congress,
she regrets the Lake and Riley Act in response to a wonderful young lady of promise and potential being murdered by an illegal alien invader who had no business being in America. Johanna Hayes is against that now? Vote against her.
probably would have voted differently. It's a vote that I regret, but coming into this
Why would you regret voting to protect Americans, you asshole?
Congress, I trusted that this administration, we would have some, if they wanted to have border security, they wanted to work with Democrats, that we could actually move forward. I'm not really sure of that.
I think your political chances are toast. Johanna Hayes, vote her out, please. U.S. Space Force Colonel Susan Myers removed from her post after sending an email to staff criticizing J.D. Vance's visit to Greenland. The email read, the concerns of the U.S. administration discussed by VP Vance on Friday are not reflective of Pituffik Space Base. And they're not reflective of Space Base because you're no longer working there. Goodbye, Susan Myers from Space Force. John Solomon, as I showed you, reporting that Just the News will be reporting 700 pages, publishing 700 pages of declassified Crossfire Hurricane documents. So take a look, skim them, figure out. General Mike Flynn is kind of, well, here, let's just play you this little clip from Flynn movie about Crossfire Hurricane.
That's what I think most people are mad about when they think about Michael Flynn's case, why they're outraged. So how would you not be mad at that? You'd be mad at that if you saw it in a movie. You'd say a good movie would make you feel the injustice, right? If you're sitting, with a bag of popcorn and I can't believe this. This is terrible what they're doing to this guy, and you're watching it on a screen. Wow. That's what I think most people are mad about. The hero should be celebrated. It's a very full story in that way. It's a story that's supposed to resonate with Americans because the best of what our culture and society does is it trains us to admire honorable people. And so when someone is treated like an enemy of the
So many people have been treated as enemies of the state by the deep state.
This goes against everything that we are educated to believe or know about the world.
And General Flynn says, if you want to know even more details about Crossfire Hurricane, watch the documentary Flynn Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. Check that out. John Solomon reporting, read the Russia collusion memos that President Trump declassified and Kash Patel gave to Congress. There's the link. Check it out. Just the News. It's here on the TNAM X account at American_media_. This was President Trump talking about how Mexico owes Texas 1.3 million acre feet of water. Here you go. Here's maybe let's just get a couple seconds of this explaining what this issue is.
Now back to that question we had about that 1944 water treaty. What is it? Well, for starters, it's an agreement solely between the United States and Mexico. And simply put, it lays out how the two countries share water. Regulation on the U.S. side is done by the International Boundary Water Commission.
The 1940.
Well, hold on. I found a problem. They erroneously called this the Gulf of Mexico. This is the continent of America. This is North America. So this is the Gulf of America.
The U.S. side is done by the International Boundary Water Commission.
The 1944 Water Treaty is a treaty that actually covers 3 watersheds.
Those being the mighty Colorado out west and the Rio Grande from the Rockies to El Paso. These are filled by snowpack. But it's the third watershed that's the real problem here.
The third basin starts at Fort Quitman and goes all the way down to Brownsville. About 50% of the water is supplied from the Mexican side.
Bottom line, the water that flows into the Rio Grande is to be shared.
Mexico has 5 years to deliver 1.75 million acre feet.
That's because the treaty works in 5-year cycles. It always has. The United States delivers water from those other watersheds, most notably the Colorado River out west. The U.S. has done their part. Mexico, however...
We are in year 4 of this 1944 water treaty, and Mexico has a very high probability of ending the 5-year cycle in deficit.
While still technically in compliance, barring a miracle, it's not looking like Mexico is going to fulfill their side of the bargain. And this isn't the first time it's happened.
Mexico has a repeated history of not complying with the treaty.
And you know what? Ted Cruz and President Trump are not letting him get away with it now. And I'm happy about that. Watch the rest of that report. It's on our X feed. That was the first minute of it. Whistleblower confirms, according to Johnny Midnight here, a criminal conspiracy between the Biden White House, FBI Washington field office, and prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., and Jack Smith to plan, approve, and execute Arctic Frost with the intent to frame, arrest, prosecute, and imprison Donald Trump. Yep. So the Biden White House and all of the Obama handlers, that's treason. It's the 200th case of trying to impose treasonous activities against President Trump and MAGA. Arrest them already. Obama, Biden, Clinton, get them indicted. By the way, Arctic Frost, that refers to a brand of orange because, Orange Man bad. Orange Man bad. Arctic Frost. That's why they labeled it that. It's treason. Really hope the investigators are held accountable. Tulsi Gabbard intelligence report. I don't think that's her actual account. 37,000 followers. It's a parody account. Okay. It's parody? I want parody accounts to have like a frame on them. Put the circle, make them green or something. No affiliation. And we just asked, is this true? Because it didn't, I don't know, it just didn't seem true. Once again, we're asking Team YouTube. They said, it looks like you've already appealed our decision to give you a strike, and you received an email outlining the final decision. We know it wasn't the outcome you were hoping for, but there's nothing more we can do on our end as those decisions are made very carefully. Appreciate your understanding. We said, hello, Team YouTube. We searched our emails and do not see a detailed explanation about what specific moment triggered a hard strike. As a 14-year user with 1,800 videos and 0 strikes, we want to know why this happened. We want this strike removed. YouTube provided no explanation. We showed, here's your important notification, and you click it, and you can't review the copyright you can't review the content. The appeal's just automatically rejected. Angry Muncie asks, why are you purposely, to YouTube, deleting innocent channels? Where's the proof that they actually have a strike? You're not justified it takes months and years of hard work to get away with it. And we said, YouTube ruined our business model of advertising revenue sharing. YouTube has throttled our video distribution reach, demonetized us, shadow banned us, and violated our civil liberties. Orwellian creepiness, 14 years of this madness. No Brainer response says, y'all need to change as this is so annoying. Some robot doing the reviews. And we said we should be able to click a button for an appeal request and be able to speak with one point of contact to work issues out. Why can't a sentence or a few minutes be cut or muted to resolve it? Why can't our uploads ever reach the thousands of people who subscribe to our account? And then when doing research for Tulsi Gabbard's lawyers are saying that CNN plans to publish a story falsely asserting or implying that Gabbard committed voter fraud and suggests she had abandoned her longstanding Hawaii residency. They say falsely accusing the DNI of criminal conduct would be defamation. In this report here on Newsmax, Carl Higbee just saying the CNN hit piece is really just about her owning a property in Texas. So consider the source, people. Consider the source. And that's what I had to deliver you today. Not a parody, a pair of D's. I know it is a movie. And China might be banning our movies. Oh, no. Oh, no. All right. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you being a part of the group, for pulling up your chair, letting me bartend to you and deliver you conversation about the things happening in the news. Follow the New American Media on Instagram, Rumble, Truth Social, YouTube, and Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, YouTube. This isn't accurate. I need more on here. Odyssey. This is not. Yeah, it's supposed to say about D Live. Hang on, let me switch to A2D24. This is the one I need. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, Kick, D Live, and YouTube. We're on Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_media_ and subscribe to our podcast, The Agree to Disagree Show. It also covers the TNAM AM Show on Spotify and Apple. Check out our TNAM documentaries. Hurricane Helene, Help on the Way. We also have Football Equals Family. That's on YouTube only. We also have Declassified, the unreleased J6 interviews. We also we've got a lot of documentaries, so go scroll around and check them out, please, on the New American Media. And of course, if anyone wants to sign up on Patreon, we're at the New American Media over there. Thank you to our new subscribers. And we're also on Venmo at Brian Engelman, Cash App, $ Brian Engelman, and PayPal at Fuzz Installment, if anyone would like to contribute to our operations over here. That's what I had for you today. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more to you then about what's happening today. I appreciate you. I love you. So long. That's what she said. Wah, wah. Yeah, we wrapped up the show before David has to go get his kids. That's a milestone. That's a momentous occasion on its own. But yes, thanks to everyone, Bella's Chance and David and Kenneth and everyone else out there lurking. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye.